Welcome to a tale that will chill your bones and leave you questioning what lurks in the shadows. Tonight, we're venturing into the eerie world of Shadows of Hollow Manor, a story where mystery, danger, and the supernatural collide. Join Elena as she uncovers the dark secrets of a haunted mansion that holds more than just ghosts. But beware, this story will keep you on the edge of your seat. Let's begin. Chapter 1, The Invitation. The mist rolled in thick waves over the sleepy town of Cedar Hollow, cloaking the streets in an eerie silence. On the outskirts of the town, perched atop a hill like a forgotten relic, stood Hollow Manor. The mansion had long been abandoned, its windows dark and its halls silent. No one in Cedar Hollow dared venture near it, no one except for Elena. Elena had always been drawn to mysteries, and Hollow Manor was the greatest one in town. Tales of hauntings, strange lights, and whispers in the night swirled around it. And yet, when she received the letter, an elegant piece of parchment sealed with wax, inviting her to spend a night in the mansion, she couldn't resist. The letter promised answers. It promised to reveal the secrets hidden within the walls of the ancient mansion. All she had to do was stay until dawn. The evening of her arrival was cold and still. As Elena approached the grand entrance, the towering doors creaked open as if expecting her. She hesitated for a moment before stepping inside. The air was thick with the scent of dust and decay. The sound of the door slamming shut behind her echoed through the empty halls. Elena's heart raced as she stood in the foyer, her breath visible in the cold air. The chandelier above her, covered in cobwebs, swayed ever so slightly. A sudden gust of wind swept through the mansion, and she could have sworn she heard faint whispers carried on the breeze. Determined to uncover the truth, Elena took a deep breath and began to explore. The mansion was a labyrinth of dimly lit corridors, each one more ominous than the last. Portraits of long-dead residents stared down at her with hollow eyes, their expressions frozen in eternal disapproval. But it was the shadows that truly unnerved her. They seemed to move of their own accord, twisting and contorting in ways that defied logic. As she walked through the halls, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that the darkness itself was alive. Chapter 2, The haunting hours passed, though it felt like an eternity. Elena found herself standing in the grand ballroom, its once opulent walls now peeling and crumbling. The moonlight streamed through the broken windows, casting strange patterns on the floor. And then she saw it, a figure standing at the far end of the room, shrouded in shadow. Elena froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, but its presence was overwhelming. "Who are you?" Elena's voice echoed through the empty room. The figure remained silent, but a chill ran down her spine as it began to slowly glide toward her. Panic surged through her, and she turned to flee, but the doors of the ballroom slammed shut, trapping her inside. The temperature in the room dropped drastically, and Elena's breath came out in rapid, white puffs. She could feel the presence closing in on her, an invisible force pressing against her mind, filling her with dread. Suddenly, the figure vanished, leaving behind only the oppressive silence. Elena stood trembling in the center of the room, her mind racing. She knew she had to find a way out of this nightmare. Chapter 3, The Unveiling. Desperate to escape, Elena hurried through the twisting corridors, trying to find the front door. But the mansion seemed to defy all logic. Its halls changed, new rooms appeared, and doors led to nowhere. It wasn't long before she found herself in the basement, a cold and damp place filled with the scent of mold. The walls were lined with old portraits, but unlike the others she had seen, these were different. Each depicted a person with their eyes scratched out, their faces twisted in agony. A sudden noise echoed through the basement, a soft, rhythmic tapping. It grew louder and louder, and Elena found herself drawn toward it. At the far end of the basement, she found a small door, half hidden behind a stack of rotting crates. The tapping was coming from behind it. With trembling hands, Elena opened the door and found herself in a small, dimly lit room. In the center of the room was a large wooden chest, and perched on top of it was a porcelain doll. The doll's eyes were dark and hollow, its mouth twisted into a cruel smile. The tapping continued, coming from inside the chest. Elena hesitated, every instinct screaming at her to turn back. But something compelled her to open the chest, to confront whatever horror lay within. As she lifted the lid, the tapping stopped. Inside the chest was a journal, old and worn. Elena carefully lifted it out, her hands trembling. The pages were filled with cryptic symbols and disturbing sketches, but one entry caught her eye. It was written in a shaky hand, the ink smudged and uneven. Chapter 4, the final hour. The journal entry spoke of a curse, a dark force that had plagued the mansion for centuries. It told the story of a young woman, much like Elena, who had been lured to Hollow Manor with promises of answers, only to become another victim of the darkness within. Elena's blood ran cold as she realized the truth. The mansion wasn't just haunted, it was alive, feeding on the souls of those who entered. She was just the latest in a long line of victims. But the journal also spoke of a way to break the curse, to free the souls trapped within the walls of Hollow Manor. It would require great sacrifice and courage, but it was the only way. With renewed determination, Elena set off to find the heart of the mansion, the source of the darkness that had consumed so many lives. The shadows seemed to grow darker as she made her way through the halls, and the whispers grew louder, taunting her with every step. At last, she found herself in the center of the mansion, in a large circular room. The air was thick with malevolence, and in the center of the room stood a massive, ornate mirror. Its surface was cracked and tarnished, but as Elena approached, she could see something moving within it, something dark and twisted, a reflection that wasn't her own. The mirror was the key. She knew it instinctively. The source of the curse, the dark force that had consumed Hollow Manor, was trapped within the mirror. If she could destroy it, she could break the curse. But as she raised the journal, prepared to strike the mirror with all her strength, a voice echoed through the room, a voice that sent shivers down her spine. "You cannot escape." Elena turned to see the shadowy figure from the ballroom standing behind her, its form now more distinct. It was a woman, her face pale and gaunt, her eyes dark and hollow. The ghost of the woman who had been cursed so long ago. "You are mine now," the ghost whispered, her voice filled with sorrow and malice. Elena hesitated for a moment, fear gripping her heart. But she knew what she had to do. With a cry of defiance, she swung the journal at the mirror with all her might. The mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces, and a deafening wail filled the room. The shadows recoiled, and the darkness that had permeated the mansion began to dissipate. The ghost let out a final, anguished scream before fading into nothingness. Chapter 5, The Escape. The moment the mirror shattered, the mansion began to change. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the air grew warmer. The shadows retreated, and the whispers ceased. Hollow Manor was no longer a place of darkness and despair, it was simply an old, abandoned house. Elena stood in the center of the room, breathing heavily. She had done it. She had broken the curse and freed the souls trapped within the mansion. But as she turned to leave, she noticed something strange. The shattered pieces of the mirror were gone. In their place was a small, ornate box, its surface etched with intricate designs. Curious, Elena opened the box, and inside she found a single key, a key that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Elena knew that her journey was far from over. The key was a clue, a link to something even greater than the curse of Hollow Manor. Whatever it unlocked, it held the answers to mysteries far beyond the haunted mansion. With the key in hand, Elena left Hollow Manor behind, but she knew that the shadows would follow her wherever she went. The darkness was not so easily defeated, and her story was just beginning. Epilogue, the endless night. Weeks later, Elena returned to Cedar Hollow, holding the mysterious key that she had found in the shattered remains of Hollow Manor. Nightmares continued to plague her sleep, and a strange feeling kept pulling her back to the town. As she stood at the edge of the town at dusk, the sun disappearing behind the trees, Elena knew that her journey was far from over.
Thanks for watching my video. Please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon.